Welcome back to the build series. We are now going to be opening bag B. Let's see what's inside. What we have first is our transmission case. Next is our front differential with fluids inside. Our front spindles. The front shock tower, front bumper. Our front hinge pin braces. Our front drive shaft. Here's our left and right front drive shafts. Our sway bar. And our front A-arms. We're going to start by opening bag B1 and removing all contents inside the bag. So here's a nice close-up of our differential inside of our Pit Pal. This is an excellent tool to have as you can build all three differentials at the same time. As you can see, there's going to be air bubbles in here. When you fill it up, you're going to let those escape to the top and make sure there's no air bubbles left. Once that is done, we can go ahead and complete the rest of the differential. So sit back, have yourself your favorite drink, and we'll get back when we're done. So it's getting close. Just enjoying some fruit juice. But unfortunately, it went into a time lapse when I was filming. I apologize for that, but I do have a video on how to build a differential, so you can refer back to that or wait for the rear differential or center differential, and I'll go ahead and show that. But a quick recap is basically you're going to run black grease where the O-ring is going to sit down on inside the gear, on the shaft, on the O-ring itself, and then you're going to place this shim with the shiny side facing up. It might be a little bit beveled, the flat side facing down. Then your pin will go on, and then your sun gear will go on top of that. You're basically going to mimic that on this one as well. When doing this, let me pan down real quick. Once you have duplicated putting in your outdrive, O-ring, shim, pin, and sun gear, like you did on the other ring gear, and ran your black grease on it as instructed, make sure that your cross pins have the flat side facing each other as shown here, and then your support blocks are going to have the flat side facing the black part of the plastic as shown here, and the bevel facing in towards the shim and planet gear.
You will then fill up the diff oil above the sun gear and run it around and make sure you get the oil underneath there and remove any bubbles. And once you fill it up above the planetary gears, you're going to slowly turn it as so and release all the large air bubbles that are going to be trapped in between the teeth as shown here.
So once you let all those little teeny air bubbles rise to the top, then we can finish our build. Once again, I apologize for the stupid time lapse, but we're going to move on, refer to any other videos that I have, but just make sure that you put a good coat of black grease on those O-rings, and once you have them in, then wipe away any excess black grease. And I think it's time for a little bit more of my fruit juice. We'll get back to you. All right, all our bubbles have risen to the top. We are complete waiting for all those air bubbles. A quick little pit tip that you can do to ensure that you have the proper level of your differential fluid is in the manual, it tells you to just put it above the planetary gears. What you can do is take your sun gear and you can place this on top very carefully, and then you're going to wipe away any excess oil once it settles. And if you push this sun gear down, that will be equivalent to this being installed. And once it's nice and flush on top, this isn't going to go anywhere because the pin is holding it. So you'll just place this down on top of it. Make sure that the pin lines up with the sun gear with your gasket in it, and then you'll be right at the proper level. So that's just a quick little tip. You can do it that way, or you can do it also the way that's in the book. It's totally up to you. I'm now going to place the gasket on top. And we're going to twist this to verify that it snaps into the hole, which it is. And then we will line up the holes with the gaskets and install our hardware. So as you can see, we don't have anything seeping out. It's right at the proper level. You're gonna twist this until your holes line up. All right, our holes are lined up with the gasket in the hole. We're gonna take our 2.5 millimeter and install our screws. So we're gonna do this into a star pattern. So you're gonna start with this one, then work across, then go here, and then across here. So let's go ahead and do a time lapse. All right, so we're gonna go top, bottom, left, and right. All right, there is our front differential. We will now need bag 2. This will be our front center drive shaft and our transmission case. We are now going to take the rear portion of the front transmission case and place our bearings in on both sides. Just get that down in there nice and flush. All right, it's nice and snug. Both sides are in. Now we're going to take our gear with our shaft, place the shim on, and stick that into our bearing. Ensures that it spins freely. So a quick little update. If you have binding, you're gonna have to take the shim off the pinion gear on the inside, take it apart again, and place it on the outside, and this should correct that binding. We are now gonna take black grease and coat the gear inside the transmission case, and also place black grease on the differential itself, and then this will mate together. All right, we got a nice little coat of black grease on there. Now that it's nice and coated, you're gonna place this in just as so. The bearings are rested inside the transmission case. And now we will place the front portion of the transmission case on. You're gonna run your tapered screws in the top. You will take your M5x20 screws and place these down here in the bottom. This will take a 3mm and go ahead and tighten up the screws. We will now take our 4mm and run in the bottom screws. Now that our 4 screws are mounted in, now we are going to combine our front drive shaft to our front transmission case. We will now coat this with some black grease. And you're going to coat this with black grease as well. With the drive shaft completely lathered in some black grease, we're gonna stick it inside the large opening. So we're gonna line up this hole with this hole. Once the 2 holes line up, the pin will slide right in. Wipe away all this excess grease. Nice and lubricated. And then we will do the same with mating up this side. So get it nice straight up and down as a reference point. Now we're going to take the ring and place it on the coupler. Line up the pin, place it in. And now these retaining clips will hold on our coupler. All right, the first one is on, and now we will do the rear. All right, we got both retaining clips on. All right, and go ahead and take your paper towel, wipe away any excess grease. We will now place a little bit of black grease in the boot. This is just to slide it over the dog bone. And then you're gonna wipe off the grease, and this will cover up our coupler. Now that it is over, take your rag and wipe away the grease.
A pit tip you can use is putting a paper towel over the boot, so that way you have more grip while sliding it on.
All right, our boot is now installed. All right, guys, this concludes part 1 of bag B. Look for part 2 of bag B, and we'll continue on with this build.